Welcome, everybody. It is wonderful to see you all here this morning, just a couple of days away from our holiday, our December 24th celebration. And it's good to see that you all still come anyway. So thank you. Congratulate yourself for this. We have or Reverends Karen and Leslie have in their letter of call a little something that gives them a break away from the pulpit so they can sit and relax and enjoy, well, kind of sit and relax and enjoy. And so we like to do that, and it gives us ministerial students, me and Beverly, a chance to get up here and give it a shot, see if we can do it, start developing those speaking chops. So here I am, and thank you very much. My name is Jeff Hargis, and so we had, could you throw me that clicker, please? Thank you. I know, I've got to have control. Maybe that's a man thing, I don't know. So we have had a wonderful month of hearing from a couple of different speakers around this theme for December, which is peace. And we started out with Sue Witter, who actually pulled from our founder, Ernest Holmes, when she grabbed the Science of Mind textbook, which is our main textbook that we refer to, and she read from the glossary the idea of peace, or the definition of peace, which is a state of inner calm, an inner calm so complete that nothing can disturb it. And then last week, Reverend Karen Russo, in her magnificent way, brought us a meditation from out of the book that Thich, Nhat, Hahn wrote. And just do it with me real quickly. This is more for me than it is for you. So breathe in, calm. Breathe out, smile. Breathe in, presence. Breathe out, life is wonderful. I have never been so anchored to something so simple, and even Reverend Karen has been utilizing it in our community morning meditations every day this week, and it has really, really done a job on me in terms of feeling present and feeling now and feeling that life is wonderful. And then last week we had a talk, or a couple of weeks ago, Reverend Leslie spoke, and she had such a delightful talk. She brought into it peace in terms of being at peace and grace during our holidays, and she brought in the analogy of football having three different elements: the offense and the defense and the cheerleaders. And yes, I had to bring that up. It's just so damn cute. It really is a cute picture. And I found myself, I was sitting right over there thinking that there's no category for me here. I don't feel like I have a category. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I created one for today. And that is the partiers. That is me in the black a long time ago with a lot more hair. And that is my brother John. I hope he's watching today, because I told him one of these days I was going to bust that one out. I can guarantee you that these guys were not at the football game. In fact, it probably being a Saturday night when high school football games are played, we were probably out at a big party, drinking something and smoking something to excess, having a good time, I am sure. And the last thing that was on our mind was extracurricular activity. Yeah. So I have a bit of a Christmas tradition that was brought forth probably like 3 or 4 years after that picture was taken. And it was at the beginning of December, me and my friends would go out Christmas shopping. Not Christmas shopping, but Christmas tree shopping. And we kind of had an alternative way of shopping in that we would go out at about 1 or 2 in the morning, and we would head to the local Christmas tree lot with a couple of cars, and I would scale the fence, land in the Christmas tree lot, and was brazen enough to actually look around for a good tree. I would grab the tree, and I would just heave it over the fence, and then climb back over, and we would all pile into our cars and head home, laughing all the way. We did this probably for like 4 years, so that's how it became a tradition. And the very last year that we did this, it was a year of significant change for me. I've talked about my mystical experience on the mountain before, and it was during that time that a lot of things were changing for me. And that last year that we actually did go to our local Christmas tree lot and grab the tree, we all got back safely, and I remember going to bed and waking up the next morning feeling tremendously empty at what had occurred. And I remember walking into the living room and just sitting there by the tree that was adorned by beer cans for decorations, and just thinking, it was kind of like one of those bottom moments for my life. And I saw that the price tag was still there on the tree, and so I cut the price tag off, and I drove back to the Christmas tree lot, and I handed the tag to the attendant there, and I said, I was here last night, I stole a tree, and I would like to pay for it now. And she's like, wait, what? And I don't condone in any way, I want to be clear, the stealing of Christmas trees. But what I did get that morning was such a sense of peace and liberation and freedom, because I addressed this burden that was cycling through my mind. And it took a little bit of oomph to lean into that and to be a little embarrassed about, showing up and apologizing. But it really allowed me to feel a sense of freedom that I hadn't before. And I remember going back to the home, and my friends were there laughing and joking about the night before. And I remember just quietly sitting there in gratitude, knowing that my life had taken a turn. So, that is what we are going to be. That is enough of that picture. So today we are going to be talking about the expansiveness of peace. And I am going to be talking about a couple of different things, specifically around the, that's not where I wanted to go, materialist versus consciousness. I'm pulling from an old ministerial class that I had about a year ago. And from that understanding of consciousness, we're going to be looking at a bigger picture of questions that we can ask ourselves. And then from there, we are going to be talking about, I may have to get rid of this thing. And then we're going to be talking about prayer as the supplement of prayer in order to maintain that peace. And so the materialist versus consciousness. Reverend Karen Russo last week was talking about these two elements of our philosophy, that of love and that of law. Love being that place for which we are one and unified, and that of law being that consciousness creates our experience. And that's kind of the area that I wanted to focus on today. In that I had a class called Science and Spirituality that was one of those classes that really shook me to the core, because it took beyond this idea of manifesting parking spaces, it took it to another level for me. And so this is how they explained it. He first came from a materialist's point of view, which begins at a subatomic or elementary particle level and turns into atoms, and then molecules, and then cells, which actually carry those genes. And then from there, some of those genes go according to the directions given by the DNA to create part of our brain, which actually houses our consciousness. And there is some issues with this idea in that it's, I think they called it the big problem from philosophers and other science areas, that there is difficulty going from cells to sentience or to consciousness. So in comes this idea stemming from quantum mechanics that, that consciousness, better yet, it says this theory places central to all consciousness as the basis of existence. So from that, matter and experience and feelings and all those things, tangible and intangible, that we experience in our life come first centrally through this idea of consciousness. And so this probably looks familiar to some students here in that there is, overlaid is our symbol for science of mind and our teaching symbol, something that we look at a lot. And if you don't know what this is, we have a foundations class that is next month on the 16th. So this very long and kind of geeky way of looking at this is a long-winded way of saying that I can't construct the reality of peace outside of myself. And we've heard it said in lots of different ways here, that it is an inside job. And it's an inside job for it all, isn't it? So looking for peace at a material level is an impossibility. And so the funny thing about it is that we still experience as humans that idea that when we get the house, the car, the significant other, the raise in pay, the promotion at work, that we will feel a sense of peace. And that's just not the case. Although it may be temporary, it is fleeting, and there's nothing at our core level that actually feels this. So we know that it is at our core level this thing that we call peace, and that it is an inside job. And some of the ways to look at this are in what we experience when we're not at peace. Because I know that when I am not at a place of calm and grace, that it is mental, that I don't have clarity in my thoughts, and I can feel it in my body. You know, that constricted feeling. I love it how Brad Winker used to walk on the stage, and he would say, am I walking around like this, or am I walking around like this? So that feeling of constrictedness that pushes away that yes to life, that is resistant to change, and that is triggered on a dime with anything that might be coming our way, especially change. That's a big one for me. And so these things occur when we're not at peace. And on the opposite end of that, when I am in a place of peace, it is, can you just feel it in your body? There is an opening up, kind of this big breath that comes through that just allows this energy to start cycling through or revolving around in our whole experience. And it opens up to all kinds of new ideas. It eliminates some of the biases that are created to filter thoughts and ideas through our mind. There is just a sense of being at ease with everything, and nothing is constricted in any way. And this expansiveness comes to me with this big idea that it gives me the permission or grants me the authority to ask a bigger question in my life, or bigger questions, I should say. And those questions are things like, although they seem simple, are huge. So when something comes to me and I am in the past really resistant to someone, the new question comes to me, what if I stand in my truth and feel that piece of unconditional love within me towards that person? Or what if I surrender to holding on to this idea and allow this new change to come through and just allow it to unfold the way that it would? I thought about this story like 20 minutes ago, and I just had to print it out because it was significant to me, so excuse me if I read it. But it says, Gloria Steinem, the writer and leader in the feminist movement, once learned an important political lesson as a student on a geology field trip. I took geology because I thought it was the least scientific of the sciences. She told an audience at a Smith College, her alma mater. On our field trip, while everyone else was off looking at the meandering Connecticut River, I was paying attention. I wasn't paying any attention whatsoever. Instead, I had found a giant turtle that had climbed out of the river, crawled up the dirt road, and was in the mud on the embankment of another road, seemingly about to crawl up on it and get squashed by a car. So being a good codependent with the world, I tugged and pushed and pulled until I managed to carry this huge, heavy, angry, snapping turtle off the embankment and down the road. I was just putting it back into the river when my geology professor arrived and said, "You know, that turtle probably spent a month crawling up that dirt road to lay its eggs in the mud by the side of the road, and you just put it back in the river." Well, I felt terrible, and years later I realized that this was one of the most important political lessons I learned, one that cautioned me about the authoritarian impulse to both left and right. Always ask the turtle. And it brings to me this idea of peace and surrender and allowing things to unfold the way they will. And there is such an opening for this and allowing for this. Wayne Dyer says that peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is rather than as you think it should be. So we let go of expectations, we let go of judgments, and we let our biases go, and we open ourselves to this unfolding in our lives in a spiritual way by allowing those big questions to come up. And so we get to this place of ease and grace and peace in our lives. And like I said, we had some great speakers up here talking about various tools of meditation, like Karen Russo brought to us, and some affirmations and things like that. And I wanted to talk briefly today about prayer. And I am reasonably sure that it was Ernest Holmes that said, "Inspiration without application is hallucination." And although that kid in me would have been like, all right, I think Dr. Holmes probably had something more in mind in terms of, we always say that expression, treat and move your feet, or what are some other ones? They have here prayer and performance, or what is the faith one? And I'm blanking right now. Anyway, so the whole idea behind this is some of our purists think that prayer should be enough. And in fact, Ernest Holmes does talk about turning away from the condition that is brought to us and looking forward at our truth of who we are by saying a prayer, and that's it. And what I know for sure is that I am not to the point of levitating or walking on water, and that is a difficult thing for me just to say a prayer and be done with it. So there is more to it than this. There is a stream of consciousness that is ever present for us. And it is something that we engage when we're in prayer. It is something that we engage when we're not in prayer and when we're just going about our days. We've often talked that just our thoughts and our emotions are in and of themselves a prayer. And so one of the things that drives me a little nutty is when I sit down with somebody who tells me of a condition in their life, a negative condition in their life, and we sit and we do a prayer, and as soon as I say, and so it is, they launch right back into the whole story again. And it's like, I want to come from that place like Bob Newhart does in his show, stop it, stop it. You know, that's kind of the feeling that I get whenever I hear that, because there is so much more to it than just the prayer. There is so much more to it, and the secret is this, part of the secret is this, that we are not praying to any entity or we're not praying to God. We are actually speaking a word into our consciousness when we do a prayer. And so, like I said, it doesn't end when we say, and so it is, amen. There is much more to it than that. And that supplement to that prayer can be in the form of a lot of different things, whatever it is that inspires us, but it is action of some sort that we do after the prayer. We don't just let it go and then slide back into that place of condition again. We get up and we move forward in one direction or another. And I know I bring forward New Orleans trip a lot. After Hurricane Katrina hit, I was in a place of so much passion that I wanted to get out there and do something about it, that I started, that along with my prayer, I also was engaging. I engaged my mom, said, would you like to sponsor me and pay for my trip out to New Orleans? She said a big no to it, but there was an opening when I was doing that that just created some sort of attraction or a frequency that just attracted stuff to me. And my dad called me out of nowhere, and this is so not him to do anything like this, but he called and said, yeah, we're going to go down to New Orleans and help out some of the folks that had lost their homes. And I said, can I go with you? And he said, absolutely, positively. So it's just that place of opening up. It may not happen in the exact way that you are taking action for, but just being in that place of openness allows this stuff just to start coming at you because you're recognizing it, you're not shutting it down, you're not filtering anything with your biases, you are in a place of openness and allowing for it to happen. When I think back to that guy, I've had to go through some shifts in thoughts around that because probably 10 years ago, I would have never have shown that picture. So there's a bit of being vulnerable here. And it was the 80s. I was definitely a product of the 80s. And I have right now so much compassion for that guy that was there. Just the confusion and the fear and the rebelliousness that was there. And, you know, I'm probably describing 95% of the people here, although you didn't go out and steal Christmas trees. But there has been an evolution in time that began from that moment that I decided to be honest and come forward up for me that has allowed an opening in my life. And it's slow. It has always been slow, but it's been a progression towards this, towards knowing the truth of who I am. And whether that has been through inspiration and allowing in a moment of peace the bigger question in my life, or whether it is just in prayer and moving forward after the prayer, it has happened to the point where I'm up here on stage. So there is that. And so I invite us all into that place of practice and prayer, taking a deep breath. and knowing that it is here, in the silence, in the presence, that we recognize that higher truth. We recognize that there is this thing called spirit, called life, called infinite intelligence that is at the helm. It is not a person, but it is a deep knowing within that allows for this recognition and for this experience and for the manifestation of the peace in our life. And so I know this truth for me individually and us as a community collectively, that there is an opening in all of our lives right here and right now. Regardless of whether or not you are stepping into the holidays with great joy or with some trepidation, there is a centering and a remembering of the truth of who we are. And we step forward in this, recognizing that there is a peace within. There is a peace so secure and anchored that it cannot be disturbed. And so in this place, I give grateful thanks. I give grateful thanks for the honor of knowing each individual's truth right here and right now. I give thanks for that peace and calm and brilliance and joy coming forth in our expression and in our experience. And with this, I allow it to be, and I call it good, and so it is.